Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to close your eyes for a second. Think of a face you love. Maybe it is a parent who is no longer with us, or a child who has grown up too fast. Now, imagine if you lived in a world where that face simply vanished. A world where, once a moment passed, it was gone forever into the abyss of time. For 99% of human history, this was our terrifying reality. We were helpless against the passage of time. Kings built statues and artists painted portraits, but they were just lies, interpretations of the truth. Humanity had a desperate, clawing hunger to do the impossible, to freeze time. We wanted to look God in the eye and say, "I will keep this moment." But for centuries, the secret to doing this lay hidden in the dark, waiting for someone brave enough or mad enough to find it. This mystery begins not in a high-tech laboratory, but in the scorching heat of the Iraqi desert over 1,000 years ago. The year is around 1000 AD. A scholar named Ibn al-Haytham is sitting in a pitch-black room. He notices a beam of sunlight piecing through a tiny pinhole in the wall. On the opposite wall, a ghost appears. It is the image of the street outside. People walking, palm trees swaying, but it is upside down. This was the birth of the Camera Obscura, the dark room. But here is where the suspense begins. For the next 800 years, this was nothing but a parlor trick. We could project the image, we could trace the image, but we could not keep the image. It was like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. The moment the sun set, the image died. The centuries rolled on. In 1685, a man named Johann Zahn actually designed a portable box that looked like a camera, but he had a tragic problem. He had the body, but he didn't have the soul. He had the machine, but no film. The world had to wait another 140 years for a man who was obsessed enough to play with poison. Enter the year 1826. We are in Burgundy, France. Meet Joseph Nicéphore Niépce. He's an inventor, but he's also a man running out of time. He's experimenting with a strange tar-like substance called bitumen of Judea, the same stuff ancient Egyptians used to wrap mummies. It was messy, it was smelly, and it hardened when light hit it. Niépce coats a pewter plate with this tar, places it inside a wooden box, and points it out of his upstairs window at a pigeon house and a barn roof. Now, imagine the silence of that room. He opens the lens, and he waits. In our modern world, we get frustrated if a video buffers for 5 seconds. Niépce sat there for 8 hours. The sun rose on the left, moved across the sky, and set on the right, illuminating both sides of the buildings. The suspense in that room must have been suffocating. Was it working, or was he just a fool staring at a box? When he finally removed the plate and washed it with lavender oil, the shadows didn't wash away. A grainy, blurry, high-contrast image remained. It was the view from the window at Gras. It was the first time in the history of the universe that light itself had drawn a picture. He called it heliography, sun drawing. He had captured the ghost. But every good thriller has a twist. Niépce was secretive and paranoid. He needed help to refine his invention, so he partnered with a flamboyant theater designer named Louis Daguerre. But before they could perfect it, Niépce died of a stroke. He died poor and unrecognized, his genius buried with him. Daguerre was left alone with the secrets. Daguerre was different. He was a showman. He wanted sharpness, he wanted clarity. He switched to silver plates and iodine, dangerous chemicals that could burn your lungs. For years he failed, but then the single greatest accident in art history occurred. In 1837, Daguerre put an exposed plate, which showed no image, into his chemical cupboard, intending to clean it later. When he opened the cupboard the next morning, there was a perfect, crystal clear image on the plate. He was terrified and amazed. What happened? He accused the cupboard of being magic. He removed the chemicals one by one to find the culprit. It turned out to be a broken thermometer. Mercury vapor had leaked out, settled on the silver, and developed the image. It was a miracle born of a mistake. This led to the famous daguerreotype. The world went mad. But there was still a haunting limitation. The exposure time was around 10 to 15 minutes. This meant you couldn't photograph people. If you moved, you became invisible. In 1838, Daguerre took a photo of a busy street in Paris, the Boulevard du Temple. The street was packed with horse-drawn carriages and hundreds of pedestrians. But in the photo, the street looks completely empty. It looks like a ghost town. Because everyone was moving, they vanished, except for one man. In the bottom corner of the photo, a man stopped to have his boots shined. He stood perfectly still for several minutes. Because of that small act of vanity, he became the first human being ever photographed. We will never know his name, but his silhouette is immortal, trapped forever because he wanted clean shoes. As the years passed, the obsession shifted from how do we do it to how big can we make it. You asked how big these cameras were. Let me take you to the year 1900. A man named George R. Lawrence was hired to take a photograph of the Alton Limited, a luxury train. He wanted every detail perfect. He couldn't just use a normal camera, so he built a monster. He built the Mammoth camera. Visualize this. A camera that weighed 1,400 pounds. That is heavier than a grand piano. It was the size of a small garage. It used a glass plate that was 8 feet wide. It took 15 strong men just to move it and set it up. They had to use gallons of chemicals just to develop one single picture. When they showed the photo to the world, people screamed fake. They couldn't believe a camera could capture such detail. It wasn't a device. It was an industrial complex. It shows you the sheer madness humanity possessed to capture reality. But the story doesn't end with giants. It ends with a revolution. A man named George Eastman looked at these poisonous, heavy, expensive beasts and said, "This should be for everyone." He invented a roll of film, dry, safe, and simple. He created the Kodak. His slogan was terrifyingly simple. You press the button, we do the rest. Suddenly, the power to freeze time wasn't just for scientists or rich people. It was for mothers, for soldiers, for children. So where does this leave us today? The journey took us from a dark room in ancient Iraq through the toxic fumes of French laboratories, past the 1,400-pound monsters, right into the palm of your hand. You are carrying the legacy of that 1,000-year struggle in your pocket right now. We have fulfilled the ultimate human dream. We have defeated time. We can freeze a laugh, a tear, a tragedy, or a triumph in a nanosecond. But as we stand here, drowning in billions of images, the suspense is no longer about if we can capture the moment. The suspense is about whether we are still living in it. We spent a millennium building a machine to help us remember, but in the process, we might have forgotten how to see.